the parable of the Good Samaritan, probably one of the most famous stories in the Bible. I mean, I can't think of another one that has legislation named after it to protect those who try to help people in need. But even so, we continuously have to encourage each other to live out this story in our own day and age. And as I was preparing for this sermon and thinking about how we do that today, it dawned on me that really the many and varied social ministries that this parish is involved in covers all the bases of this story. So I'd like to spend some time this morning looking at the parable vis-a-vis St. Bart's social ministries. The story begins saying that a man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho. He's a traveler. He's away from home, family, friends. He's by himself on the road, vulnerable. And so right off the bat, Jesus, it would seem, by telling the story this way, makes it clear that travelers are our neighbors. And can any of you all think of a ministry that St. Bart's is involved in that reaches out to travelers, people on the road? Well, I think of Refugee Net. I think of the bags of food that we send the students that we sponsor to go to Camp Stevens. Also, our involvement and support of the ministry with St. Luke's Episcopal Parish and their Sudanese and Congolese children and youth, those communities. Yes, we not only welcome the stranger among us, but reach out to provide help. We quickly hear, though, that the man fell among robbers who beat him and stripped him and left him half dead. And unfortunately, he was lying there penniless and in need of medical help. And that situation, I'm afraid, has not changed over 2,000 years of history. There's still plenty of people in dire need of medical help and don't have the funds to pay for that. And this is where our involvement with Episcopal Community Services is so important. This community services that provide wraparound health and human services to people who need medical help with mental health issues, with addiction, or just the ravages of homelessness. And I think of the hygiene bags. I think we provided something like 100 of those hygiene kits. And so, again, yes, we respond to those in medical need without resources. We learn that a priest was walking down the road, and I always look back at my friends here and say, this is so embarrassing. The priest was walking down, probably in prayer. And I wish I could say he didn't notice him, but he did notice the man. And after he noticed him lying there, he walks across to the other side of the street so he doesn't have to deal with him. Now, in all fairness, I mean, of course, this isn't a real event that happened. It's a story that Jesus told. But biblical scholars will point out that it was the road to Jerusalem. He is a priest. If he was on his way to Jerusalem, he was probably going there for temple duty. And if the man was half dead, probably the only way to tell if he was still alive is go over and touch him in some way. And the priest would have realized if the man were dead and he touched the body, he would be ritually unclean for at least 7 days and unable to perform his duties in the temple. So, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But can you think of ministries where we don't walk away from? Ministries that we actually get involved with. Anybody think of any? The sandwich making, and that's with interfaith community services, right? And I'm going to say something about that. Yeah, I'm going to say that a little bit about that in a minute. but all are welcome. Yes. So yes, we are involved in many ways in reaching out, and we don't risk being ritually unclean and unable to do things in our life anymore. But there are plenty of people in our society who do consider certain segments of society unclean and not worthy to be associated with. And guess what? We're celebrating today, Pride Sunday, and many of you in the next weekend coming up will be involved in Pride celebrations. And this is more than just an opportunity to get into a parade, because when St. Bart's carries its banner and you're there present with your shirts on, you're making a statement of that mission, of that tagline we use, that all are welcome, no exceptions. And not only that, when LGBTQ plus people come to St. Bart's, they realize they're not only welcome, but they're fully incorporated into the life of the parish. And LGBTQ folks are not the only social pariahs around that people would rather just not deal with. And I think of an example where not only did we cross the road to help, we crossed the border to help with the work of Vida Joven that has orphanages in Tijuana and Ensenada. And I think of the quilts. I asked at 8 o'clock, anybody here made a quilt for that? I know somebody has, because we sent over 100 of them. But they must, thank you, don't be bashful. There we go. These kids, through no fault of their own, have been born into situations of dire need, homelessness and addiction and violence, are provided a safe place to be. And these quilts that we send there are tangible reminders to them that someone cares, someone is thinking about them. And they're tangible things they can wrap around themselves in a very cold and hurting world. And not only that, we make personal connections. Has anybody here been down to Tijuana with the, there we go. And I know some of our youth have, and made personal connections with some of the kids we're sponsoring by name. So yes, we are willing to cross the road in the right direction and even to cross the border. A Levite, we're told, was also passing down the road and did exactly the same thing as the priest. When he sees the body lying there, goes over to the other side of the road. Now, a Levite was a temple assistant. The best thing I could compare him to would be a warden or vestry member today. And we don't know what the Levite's excuses were. We're not told. Maybe he just saw a half-naked man lying there on the road and figured he was drunk. He'd sober up. But it does make us question our own excuses for not getting involved with the person lying on the side of the road. And one shining exception to that, though, is the involvement we have with Epiphany School in Haiti. And here again is a community in dire poverty and need, and the school provides not only safety, hope, education, tools for these kids to build for a brighter future, but it gives them food, which many of them don't get on their own. It provides employment for the teachers in that area. And it may have been some while ago, but I think we've sent people over there as well to make the personal connection. So it would be very easy for us to say, we'll take care of Americans first. But we don't use that excuse. We're not only willing to cross the road, we're willing to cross the continent and a sea and say, yes, we do care, and you are one of us. Finally, we're told the Samaritan shows up. Now, you have to understand, in Jesus' time, a devout Jew would have considered a Samaritan part of a heretical sect of Judaism. if they considered them Jewish at all, and unclean as well, abhorrent. So even the phrase Good Samaritan is oxymoronic. There's no such thing in their mind as a Good Samaritan. But in Jesus' story, it's not the devout clergy who stop and lend a hand. It's the Samaritan, the despised one, comes and meets the man right where he is, lying on the road. And that immediately made me think of one of the ministries we are very much supportive of at St. Bart's. Because I've heard them, I've seen in their videos, they use this almost as a tagline of meeting people where they are. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Which service? It's interfaith community services. And I've seen you all making sandwiches. We talked about the sandwiches and the other support we provide for them. But they provide over 75 different programs just because of that desire to meet people where they are, because everyone's in a different place and everyone has different needs. So, yes, meet them where they are. And we're told the Samaritan nurtures his wounds, pours wine and oil on him that was considered restorative, and wraps the wounds, puts him on his own beast, and goes to look for help. In other words, he's filled with pity and compassion. And all these ministries we're talking about have compassion at their heart. And there's so many more that St. Bart's is involved in. I think of the Project Mercy. Anybody helped with building a house with Project Mercy? There we go. There go the hands over there. Providing a home for someone who, without that help, probably would never have it. I think of our collaboration with St. Mark's City Heights and the backpacks. Something so easy for us to run to Costco and get, and yet it makes such a difference in the lives of countless people. All these works are grounded in compassion. And finally, the Samaritan ends up with the man at the inn, and he pays the innkeeper to nurture him back to health. And he says, you know, if it costs more than what I'm giving you, just charge it to my account and I'll take care of it when I come back. So not only did he meet him where he was in the road, but he looked forward to the future and his future needs. And again, we do that in many, many ways, but what strikes me is all the work this parish does with children and youth at its heart is not only focused on their present need, providing them safety, providing them love, providing them care, food, but it's giving them tools for the future, education, a sense of hope, a sense that they can make their life better than it is now. And I think of how it helps our own kids to grow in an understanding of being a global citizen, of the expanded understanding that any of us experience when we go to another culture and have experiences in Tijuana or Haiti or Ecuador, as just happened a few weeks ago with our youth. So at the end of this story, this parable, Jesus looks at the lawyer and he says, "Who would you say of the three passers-by proved to be neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers?" To which the lawyer says, "Well, the one who showed mercy." Duh. And then Jesus says, "Go and do likewise." Go and do likewise. I spend this time this morning just providing some real thumbnail sketches of only part of the many ministries St. Bart's is involved in, because I think it's important not only that we know that we do these things as a parish, but are constantly reminding ourselves of their effect. They're all works that are deserved to be proud of, for us to give thanks for, and for us to support, both with our prayers and our participation and our money. But I'm afraid it's not just that easy. Our prayers and our participation in these parish ministries in no way is a substitute for our own individual response to the gospel message. We must always ask ourselves, as an individual, where do I fit into this story? And this is true with all of Jesus' parables. Where do I fit? Am I the victim? I hope not. Am I one of the robbers? I hope not. Am I the priest? Am I the Levite? Am I the innkeeper? Am I the Samaritan? What is my response to the travelers that are all around me? How do I interact with the person I see lying on the side of the road? What are my reasons? What are my excuses for not keeping company with those whom others deem to be unclean or untouchable? How long does it take me to care enough to get involved? And how central is pity and compassion to my daily living? So as a parish, as we go through the year supporting these ministries, so varied and so wonderful in so many ways, and as we look at our own lives and take stock of how we relate to the suffering souls around us, let us always come back to, always remember this amazing story that Jesus told some 2,000 years ago, the story of the Good Samaritan. And let us go and do likewise.